Hello and welcome back to the Hot Springs episode of Roll on the Adventure. We've been answering questions that have been sent in as filler from our listeners, and when we left, Jessica asked us, "What is the craziest of crazy stories that's ever happened? What's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened in one of your games, and how did you deal with it?"
See, I think and how did you deal with it is kind of a bit odd in my case, because most of the really weird things, like the really horrid situations, everything's got turned into a clusterfuck. So the situations, my response has largely been a really massive grin, because I kind of saw that coming. It's like, if my exalted players are in the back streets of hell, knocking demonic prostitutes unconscious to build some sort of like demonic assembly thing by sewing them together. I was probably in on that before it got to that point.
Yeah. At some point you would have asked, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, like they don't get to that point unless I'm kind of on board with it. Like the really crazy one. Sometimes a player will completely blindside me with a cool plan, but I'll generally go along with it, and they don't tend to escalate that high.
Yeah.
I think one that nicely stands out for me, though, was a game of Lasers and Feelings, where a player was basically talking about their plan to take down the pirates, and I had to remind the player. I expected him to retcon, but I had to remind him that the pirates were stood literally right behind him while he was saying this. And Ben, being absolutely amazing, kind of just in character, kind of just turned, waved at them. Could you give us a minute, please? And just kept talking like they'd interrupted him. I was just like, this is beautiful. And then the firefight kicks off, and it was just brilliant. Because like all the rest of the players just looked at him and face palmed, and he's just like, "What? We needed a plan."
Yeah.
It was just brilliant. Like it turned into like this. It basically broke off the back end of the game that I planned, but it was so much fun that we were both in on it. The rest of the group got in on it. And we turned it into like one of the messiest, most over-the-top firefights I've had in that game, which is saying something.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, a lot of it is going to be context, So weirdly enough, this may surprise you people in listener land, but we do discuss things like we have breaks, and we kind of look ahead and see what the questions are and stuff like that. And we were both saying that it's actually a really tricky one to answer, because like a lot of our completely ridiculous moments, have arisen from from a specific thing that's happened within the game or the system or the bit of plot. Or the other one is that, like, this is going to sound really, really arrogant, but both myself and Dave, we run a lot of games, and it all kind of blurs after a while, Like I've got like a highlight reel, but it's very much like you'd have to be there,
Yeah.
If you ever catch me in person, ask me about Ravoon Tanash, and I will do the Ravoon Tanash thing. Thing. Yeah, it's a set of actions. Yeah, and if like Ravoon Tanash is hilarious only if you can hear the setup and see the actions. It doesn't work without both,
Yeah, I kind of get you on that. I think, like, if someone was asking me, "Oh man, like I'm running a sci-fi game. You got any cool sci-fi game stories?" Or like if I remember cool things, it's normally pigging off of like a not existing memory.
Yeah,
I find it kind of hard to dig them out.
I suppose, yeah. So like you say, like the cool sci-fi one. So we played in a Dan Dare, the space pilot of the 25th century game, where we had laser shotguns. And
Nice.
One of my favorite moments was we had a hull breach, and space gas was leaking in, because that's what space is full of. Space gas.
Yeah, space gas.
Yeah, space gas. And it's like, oh god, man, space gas leaking in. Goggles on, and then all of us around the table mimed putting goggles on, and then
beautiful.
we all went I'm so glad we managed to get our goggles on. We could have breathed in a fatal amount of space gas. That's just like a silly little moment that came about.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really work. It's not really bizarre,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
I've got some horrible stories that sound bizarre, but in terms of like an old school Nine Inch Nails song, music video is bizarre. Like they're uncomfortable bizarre.
Yeah. You said like sci-fi. That's just twigged me onto the time that my Eclipse Phase players ended up running Robot Wars in space in the middle of a hab because the other guys had backed out.
Yeah.
Having been blown. I think something happened to them because of the actions of the players. And the players didn't really put two and two together as to that's what happened. It was great. They sold a guy some black market item that had killed him, and then ended up running Robot Wars instead of him.
Fair enough.
And they were very unprepared for it, and it just happened, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have thought of that just trying to think of crazy stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
basically, this boils down to we have crazy stories. We're just old, so you're gonna have to find us physically and ask us questions, or preferably buy us a few drinks as well, so we can get into proper storyteller mode.
Damn right. So the next question, I think I'm reading this right. James asks, how do I make a non-Mei character?
A non-Mei character.
A non-Mei character. Right. My thing is, if you find yourself making a meme character, write down a sentence describing the meme character, look at the twist of the table, look at what the setting is, and write another sentence about the same character in that setting, and you're no longer just a meme character.
That's quite a neat one. Mine is it's kind of the old Kung Fu Master thing of, isn't the real question, do you want to play a non-meme character? Like, there's nothing wrong. Like Hernandez is the memeiest meme to meme a meme. He is every single bad fantasy trope about a guy with a terrible mustache and a sword. But
he evolved from a bit as well from the
sound exactly. And he's an enjoyable character to play. That's the thing. I don't want to play a deep and interesting character when I break Hernandez out. I want to play Hernandez. There's no shame in playing meme characters, so long as you are aware that you're doing it because you want to.
I think also, remember that the meme isn't necessarily what's fun about the character.
Yeah.
You can find more fun. They're not set in stone, you know. If you find something else that's fun, focus on that for a bit.
Yeah.
You can make a character that starts off as a couple of words and stuff
build
like
from
that.
A mate of mine, his character sheet, so one of the Grand Silver Shark was his character's name. His character sheet, his character concept just had written in block capitals in Sharpie marker, I'm a motherfucking luchador.
Cool.
That was it. And
I've got a guy who just wrote David Bowie on his character sheet.
Yeah, there you go.
And they've had both of those people, because I've heard some of the stories about this guy. They both had incredible fun playing with it.
Yeah.
So, don't stress about it too much.
Yeah, take a deep breath.
If you think the meme's out of character, then add the second sentence.
Yeah. Right, next question by Sean.
Yeah.
I often find I struggle to empathize with my character and get into the mindset of them and how they would act. Any advice? Okay.
One that does work for me that might not work for a lot of other people is I've only just started doing this particularly, but I have found it really works, is if you find sort of a tick or something like that, something that signifies that character. If your character's always got their hands steepled, or always has a certain pose, or has a certain accent or something like that, doing that accent can kind of throw you into the character.
Okay, that's cool. My one is this is a tough one. My way I view it is that it's adventuring is your character's job.
Yeah.
And so in the same way that you don't have the same relationship with your with your co-workers as you do with your like friends. I try and kind of filter my character through that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, fair enough. And I always hate using the line, no, but my character would. But, yes, your character, given free reign, would take all of his clothes off and challenge the high priest to a naked wrestling match. But he's at work.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is really interesting is try get your character's point of view. Not so much like all the stuff that's written about their background and that doesn't necessarily help you in the moment, but labeling things in like, okay, so Molly, give me a scene.
You've been attempted to rescue a princess from an evil cult. You've burst in the door to the room with where the sacrifice is taking place, and it turns out that the princess is actually the high priestess of the cult.
Okay, give me a class.
Fighter.
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm in the room, I'm looking at weapons. That guy isn't armed. He's like, he's not a threat. I'm basically going to look around the room and go, what is threatening here? What does my character look for?
Yeah.
Looking for people ready to attack me. Looking for knives, looking for body language and stuff like that. Looking for places to maneuver. Like, that's what my character's going to look for. That's their viewpoint. And that's the first thing they're going to see. And the rest of their reaction is going to be based on that.
Yeah, I mean,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. It's kind of a more talked out and codified version of my kind of thing of, it's your character's job. So a fighter looks for the fighty situation. The thief looks for the thiefy situation. One of the things I absolutely hate as a player is when I sit down to play in a group and someone's made bloody Guybrush Threepweep fan fiction where their character is completely useless as an adventurer. But they've got such a cool backstory and all of these flaws. And it's like, your character's job, if we boil it down, is to go into sentient creatures' like homes and murder them for their if I was the leader of an adventuring group and I was looking to set up an adventuring group and you come along and go, I'm scared of the dark and enclosed spaces and I have to be referred to as a special princess or I will cry myself until I throw up, I'd be like, yeah, no, you're not coming with me.
Yeah.
Get out.
I think that works for like the job adventurers. But again, it's still a nice thing for other characters.
Yeah, I mean,
as well, like if you're a friend group, you're a friend group that we're telling this story about. Yeah,
one of my flaws as a player, and I know it's a flaw, is that I tend to play hyper competent characters.
Yeah,
like my characters are the characters that have the knowledge skills, that have the that have the way out, the widgets and doodads.
Yeah,
but that's just my preferred character.
I also have a tendency for that.
Yeah,
I think it's. I think that kind of comes from GMing.
Yeah,
it also comes to like how I approach like a lot of games. Like Pathfinder, especially when I used to play that, I used to always build like really competent wizards. Like broad spectrum, like tier 1 pushing 0 type stuff.
Yeah,
it's. But in a lot of other games, I do like having flaws. I do like flawed characters. It's just that flaw shouldn't necessarily compromise all their effectiveness.
My flaws tend to be more social flaws.
Yeah.
So like my character I play, very sporadically, Arman, he's a corrupt cop.
Yeah.
So he's a very competent cop. He can quote chapter and verse of any section of the law that you need because he knows it, so he can cover up the stuff he's done.
Yeah.
But he's still a corrupt cop, So when we go to arrest people, I'm like, actually, let's say boys will be boys and let's let him off, Yeah. And it's that kind of, well, wait, why are you doing that? You told us that we have to follow the law. And it's like, yeah, but there's some flexibility in the law when it comes to certain people, if you get what I mean,
Yeah. Well, I think like if I was playing a fighter who's very good at fighting, but they're basically a coward. They don't want a fair fight. They just happen to be very competent in it. I'd enter that room and be looking for windows, modes of egress, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, the princess is the high priestess. Do we still have to fight her?
Yeah.
Like that would be the question that I'm asking, in the scene. I think that's a flaw that's not taking you completely out of the situation.
True. But yes, let's go on to the next question.
Yeah, there's some other ways of doing the sort of utterly terrible characters, but I don't think we've got time to go into.
No, we do not.
that sort of depth at this stage. What advice can you offer for someone who wants to try GMing for the first time? Says Jason.
I'll let you go because I've already answered this at the GMing panel in Norway, so you know my answer. But
yeah, and everyone else went on for too long, so I couldn't answer it.
Yeah, so you can now finally say your answer.
My one is probably get a copy of Lasers and Feelings off the internet, try it, chill out, play a crazy space adventure, or something similar.
Play like a beer and pretzels game.
Yeah, give it a go. It's probably going to be crap, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You've put nothing into making it. You've literally rolled 3 dice to make your adventure, and the rest of the players will bring the rest of the stuff. And tell a fun space story.
Yeah.
Or whatever. If you don't like space stories, tell a fun, different story. If you want to...
No.
That does assume that you want to do the storytelling side of it, though, and that's not for everybody.
Yeah, but that's your thing.
So if you want to be acting and do storytelling, collaborative storytelling stuff, that would be my advice. Otherwise, I really agree with Molly's advice.
So my advice is find a pre-written adventure for whatever game you want to run, because generally they are written for any Muppet to run for any group of Muppets. Then sit down with the adventure and a notepad, read the whole adventure, the whole way through, with the notepad next to you, and whenever you feel it's necessary, make notes. Just make notes like, this seems a tough encounter. If you don't understand the rules, don't stop to look up the rules. Just write down I need to learn the rules for ambushes or whatever.
That's really good. I'm absolutely terrible for stopping and looking up the rules halfway through.
Yeah. But, just read through the entire thing, make notes, make sure you know how it works, quote unquote. And then going back to what Dave said, just get your mates together, get the required number of players together. So if it recommends 4 players get 4 people together and run it. And much like the first time you have sex, it will probably be awful, but at least you'll have done it.
Yeah, cool. I think that a bit of advice kind of runs nicely into the next question, doesn't it?
Yeah, actually. So from Madge, I struggle to run games without writing pages and pages of side quest maps, room descriptions, random character names, etc. Any useful hints or tips for streamlining things, or am I doomed to be buried under a pile of paperwork forever? Mine. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. I only get paid for what I run. So every second of prep that I do costs me money when I'm a paid GM. So what I do is I sit there and I go, right, what are the players actually going to encounter?
Do you feel that that's kind of crossed across into your home game?
To a point. I mean, what I tend to do is I do a lot of thought experiment things. So I'll write out an adventure which has got all that crap in it, but very broad strokes. And then I will sit there and I'll pretend I am the player and see what I actually interact with.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, what's your...
Okay, for me, I don't write a side quest. Write the hook for side quest. They're not doing that tonight.
Yep, that's always a good one.
That's the thing. If you drop the hooks and they don't bite, you've lost almost nothing.
You've lost a sentence.
Yeah. If you write a whole load of side quests and they don't do it, you've lost a whole load of side quests. Room descriptions, don't write the whole thing out. You don't need a sentence. Keywords is great.
Yep, keywords always works. Never, by the way, lists of random names, best thing in the world.
Oh, yeah. The sheer number of times I get stuck on names.
Yep.
There's also online name generators if you don't want to write them. However, they are really fun to write.
Yeah.
The other secret with random name generators, for me especially, is that I tend to write them for certain games, like particularly if I do Legends of the Wulin, stuff like that, where you've got a very strong setting because it's mythic China. You know,
Yeah.
you've got a So what I'll do is I'll go put on a Shaw Brothers movie, and I'll just write all the names out from the credits.
Yeah, that sounds.
And the best thing is, I'll write that as like a table where you can roll 2d20 and it'll give you like a mixed for like surname, you know, and forename. Except I very actually rarely roll on the table.
You just look down it.
Often no, I'll just, because I've got myself into the idea of how these names work, it makes it easier for me to invent them.
True, yeah, I hadn't thought of
that. But if I can't think of anything like particularly workable, I can just look at the table or roll.
Yeah, no.
I don't actually use them, but I do write them, and I think writing them is actually kind of useful.
I'll give you that. The other thing is that you don't have to put in side quests, to be blunt.
Yeah, I think if you're running a campaign, like dropping a few hooks is nice, but you're under no obligation to.
Just tell a fucking story. Like
you can tell the players there's nothing at the end of that.
Yeah.
Tell the players, not the characters.
Exactly.
They're adults, they'll understand.
Well, and the other thing is that, like, you know, you ain't a AAA studio. You don't have to provide 300 hours of entertainment for $60.
Nope.
You know, there is no requirement for it. If you have a story, I would much rather, I'll be honest with you, I would much rather turn up and play in a campaign for 8 weeks that 3 years afterwards I'm telling people, man, one of the best role-playing experiences of my life. I turned up, I played, it was like 8 weeks long, and we just bam got through the story. Big damn hero moment, we shook hands and went home. I'd much rather have that than a decade of wanking around following side quests that don't really go anywhere, and like a wishy-washy kind of world, you know. I'd much rather just get in, do the thing, get out.
If you want like a sort of side option and you know how long your game's going to run, do like 3 weeks build shit, 4 weeks develop shit, 3 weeks break shit.
Yeah, I mean, or the other
thing.
The one I do in my home game is we have seasons.
Yeah, you said that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, so I just tell my players, you know, season 1, season 2, there's 24 episodes in a season. Done.
And the main thing is think about scope. You've got a scope, you've got an idea what it is. Be a bit ruthless with it. Honestly, under prepping is not going to kill you unless you really overdo it. Like,
I mean,
honestly, and if you do, just go, guys, I didn't think you'd get through this quick. Give me 2 minutes and I'll restart my next encounter.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, you're doing something for them. They would have trouble running this game without you. Yeah.
Well, literally, they can't.
You'll be fine. Your players will be forgiving on it.
Yeah.
And if not, you want better friends.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, aggressively scope things down, I think is like the good way.
Yeah, if the players aren't going to touch it, or they're not likely to touch it, delete it.
Yeah. Like I say, I don't go quite that far. I go cut it down. I only write a sentence of it. But
yeah, or only write a sentence or use keywords or whatever. But like, I have become more and more ruthless as time has gone on.
But I think you have to for other reasons.
Well, yeah, and also I hate making content that my players don't see.
Same. I also really hate that.
Yeah, you can. There is a style of game where nothing gets wasted, where you make a nodal game, where basically you write out a bunch of nodes, like cool moments, and no matter what the players do, they will navigate to a node, so they can tit about all they like in as many different ways as they want, but they're going through all of those nodes.
Yeah. The other thing that I often do is I will write half an NPC. So I'll write the cool interaction moment where they meet him and not actually explain why he's there. And then I've got him for later for whichever side. He now is the guy who gives them whichever side quest that is important. I've written a convention one shot which is entirely done in half NPCs. So we find the NPCs they're interested in out of this list of descriptions, and like where they are and stuff like that, and where they decide to go check out. And I've got a whole separate set of the cult plot, which I then just slot into the appropriate NPCs that they've picked.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So we never waste the NPCs.
Yep.
I've wasted a few descriptions, but those descriptions are good anyway because I can use them for other stuff. Oh yeah, another thing is let your players write stuff for you.
Yeah.
Not quite in those terms, but if you're not sure like what a mansion looks like, ask the person whose family own a mansion, because they've got an idea in their head if they've written that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. And also, things aren't wasted. Just stick it somewhere else.
Yeah, totally.
Your players don't know.
Cool. Oh man, we spent ages on that one. Partly because it's a really good question.
It is a genuinely good question.
Martin asks, is the default setting for parties really murder hobos?
It's like a history question, really.
Yeah. Yes. But the game has changed and the default setting kind of hasn't.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
So like D&D grew out of war games.
And murder hobos are really good for war games because your like family don't really matter. You know, it doesn't matter if you grew up in this village. What matters is that you're going on a dungeon crawl through a dungeon.
Exactly. You know,
and everything else is scene dressing, really, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, and the other thing is like, murder hobos is easy, to be blunt.
Yeah, you can just drop people into it. Yeah. I mean, I've had to work so hard to drop people into things like Nobilis and drop people into Unknown Armies. I have an Unknown Armies game where you are basically playing survivors of a cult. And it is one of my games about sitting in a corner crying.
Yeah.
But getting people into that is really, really hard. And if I wasn't the person that wrote it, I wouldn't want to run it.
Yeah, whereas, you know, you are sat in an inn and a mysterious stranger comes to you and says, yo, dudes, kill some fucking orcs and get some fucking gold.
I mean, in my last one, I just started everything in media res. Banzai-Con. Like, every single adventure started off with them doing something. There was no asking. There was no questions. I worked out who the characters were and then did a flashback to the briefing.
Yeah, perfect sense.
Because, yeah, I had 2 hours to run a game of D&D. Well, less. Little under 2 hours to run a game of D&D. And I needed to hit the ground running, literally. And that's what they had to do. Often, yeah, let's say they started off legging it from something, or, you know, crossing a bridge, or waking up in the night and being attacked by wolves. I did start a game with, you know, the wind howls in the night, you know, and the wolves draw closer. Roll for initiative. You know, that was the first sentence of the game. Because it's so easy, people viscerally understand that. You know. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, yeah, you don't have to. Murder hobos is easy, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Often you just want things easy.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of other ways to do it.
But that's a podcast in itself.
Yeah, the best one, personally, is collaborative setting generation, like you do with Lasers and Feelings when you create the ship. That sort of thing really draws people together because then you know everyone's got like a shared idea in their head of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But again, that's hard to like sort of work in with a more structured game like D&D. Talking of D&D.
Yeah. So would a normal brackets random distribution around a given skill or attribute value be better than a modified random D20 roll? It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. So long as you have a quick, like, core resolution mechanic, doesn't matter. Does not matter.
Yeah. I think you could make something that's, if you tweaked the difficulty values and the and the modifiers enough, you could make something experientially the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes skill curves can make such stuff nicer when you want to sort of widen the gap in some places and not in others.
Yeah, I mean, there's millions of pages of internet have been wasted on bell curve versus standard deviation and all that
Yeah,
nonsense.
I personally, I'm a fan of sort of like dice success systems, which work out kind of similar to normal distribution. But it's honestly, it's mostly a feel for the character. Like, do I feel powerful doing this?
Yeah.
Like, is this quick to count up? That kind of thing. Is this a system quick to work with? And occasionally, will it do crazy stuff like exploding dice? Criticals, that kind of thing. And honestly, if I was writing a game from scratch, it's kind of hard to say which I'd go for, but like it's not my main like the better or worse is really kind of what you're aiming for.
Yeah,
and it's not the actual numbers, honestly.
It's the feel of the result.
Yeah, it's the feel of the result.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question from Martin is, why was chaotic evil ever allowed as an option?
See, I have no problem with chaotic evil. I will allow a chaotic evil character in my game. No problem. The one I have a problem with is chaotic neutral or random.
I feel that like a lot of players can end up doing just random and bad when they do chaotic evil. It's that guy lets backstab the party alignment. And I think that's not actually a problem with alignment as much as it is the player. For once, I'm not taking like shots at the alignment system on this.
Wow.
Which exactly, that's pretty rare.
I kind of want to do oldie timey people of the world, like this news just in.
Yeah. I don't like the alignment system, to put it mildly. I think that as an idea, as a sort of backup, it's a fallback instead of actually role playing. Kind of works. It's like if you're ever in a situation where you're like, what would my character do? And your character is chaotic evil. Your character doesn't care about, like, is in it for him, basically. My character is in it for them. They will do whatever it takes to survive or whatever. They probably won't put them at risk to do it, but that's fine. But that should always be my backup, is falling back to alignment, Yeah,
I get you.
If I like these people, like I'm not bound to them by law or whatever, or like some sort of tense of loyalty. I'm bound to them because I like these guys, Yeah.
The other thing is like chaotic evil was allowed because old school D&D was kind of giving people options.
Yeah.
Not necessarily good options, just options.
I mean, endurance.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we go into that rant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a silly question. Do centaur trousers cover the back 2 legs and half the body long ways, or all 4 legs and half the body vertically?
I think it'd be the latter, because if you're using them for like fishing waders or something, or for warmth, or for like most of the reasons people use trousers, like you want to cover the surfaces that are going to be hitting the floor.
I just think it would cover their junk.
Yeah, I mean, you do not want that getting stuck on a hedge.
Exactly. Sorry, that really tickled me. Just where's Lothar, our mighty? Where's Lothar, our mighty fighter? Oh, do you remember when we jumped over that barbed wire fence? Oh God! Don't! By the gods, do not tell me anymore. I think I'm going to be sick.
Yeah. Okay. Adam's question next. Which is better, roleplay or roleplay? The eternal debate. Unfortunately, that does not really...
roleplay as in ROLE, roll, or roll as in ROLL. Honestly, I don't care.
See, for me, I prefer playing out like roles as acting. Like that is a thing that I really enjoy. But
Oh yeah,
I don't do that in every game. Like, if have you ever played D&D with me, Molly?
not really. No.
No, it's like I build characters like to be competent. I build characters to interface with the system. I was thinking about this, and it's kind of like so I'm a fan of the Disgaea series, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that, there's like some really cool plot stuff, and there's endless hours of grind.
Mm-hmm.
And I like both the plot bit and the endless hours of grind
Yeah.
because, like, I enjoy each one for different reasons, and there's no reason that a game can't have both.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
If I had to get rid of one, I would get rid of the roll with two L's. So I have to say that roll with an E is better because it's the one that I would not do the game without. However, I think that a good game has both.
Yeah. To be honest, you pretty much hit the nail on the head for me as well. I don't care because I have to double L role play in order to play the game, and I have to LE play in order to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
You know, there is no best because I've got to do, but I have to do both, otherwise I can't play the game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, even with a different game, there's still the split.
Yeah. But yeah.
Even freeform stuff, I suppose. Like, I do remember that wonderful sort of witticism about story games where it's I guess in traditional games you're basically metagaming to create the best set of mechanical outcomes, and in story games you're basically metagaming the GM instead.
Yeah,
Just,
actually, that's a perfect way of putting it. But yeah, it is what it is. It's one of those stupid things that has become a debate when really, if you sit down and think about it, it's not.
It's
a bit like going arms and legs, which are the best.
Yeah, like making them fit in harmony is far more important to a good game.
Yeah. So, next question is from Louise, which is, as a GM, what irritates you the most during a session/campaign, or what can people do to really get the most from a system and the GM?
Ooh.
So the one that absolutely boils my piss as a GM, and it annoys me so much, is when people ask me to run a game for them. They ask me to run, like, I want you to run Dark Heresy, and I want it to be like a tense political psychological horror game, and then they just go in and fucking shoot everything. Don't ask if you want to play pew pew lasers for the Emperor. Ask me to run you pew pew lasers for the Emperor, because it will be a better game.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of one of those getting the most of the game, like from the game things then? Like you playing to the game?
Yeah.
Making sure you're on the same page as everyone else and really leaning into what the game expects of you from that.
Yeah, I think that's the best. I mean, and then that does lead into the, get them better from the game /GM. Make sure everyone's on the same page. And the other one is just learn the fucking rules. You don't have to learn everything. Just learn the stuff that matters for your character. In D&D, learn how initiative and skills and saves work. Learn how your character's abilities work, because it's time. It comes back to time. And if you are constantly asking, how do I do initiative? How do I do that? How do I do this? You're going to wind players up.
It also makes it harder to play your character because you're making decisions based on information you don't have, really.
Exactly.
You're like, do I reckon I can beat these guys? No idea, because I have no idea if I can actually cast this spell or not.
Yeah, I don't even know what this spell does.
Yeah. And also, there's a huge amount of information involved in being the GM. Like, especially in D&D, I cannot run your character for you.
No. I mean, in 3.5, I probably could, but that's because I probably played 10,000 hours of 3.5.
Yeah. I mean, I could...
But even then, I don't want to.
I'd have a good idea if it was Core Pathfinder. I Exalted, second edition, I could probably figure out most of your solo build.
But even then, like I said, you don't want to.
I happen to know this, but I shouldn't need to know it. If you've chosen to play this character, there is a bit of an onus on you to kind of make them work.
Exactly. So yeah,
that's not my getting the most thing.
what's your getting the most?
Like honestly, you get in you get out what you put in, and really, like, also make yourself uncomfortable. Like, don't just sit back and go, this thing will kind of work without me. Like, get out your comfort zone, because it'll be really fucking rewarding when you get back into it. You know, you like, if you go out and you go, oh, I'm just gonna sort of sit at the back and do very little, you'll come out of it going, well, I sat at the back and did very little. If you kind of throw yourself into it, push yourself a bit, and that doesn't mean necessarily be the biggest, loudest player at the table. It means making the choice to push yourself a little bit. You'll come away from that session and go, oh wow, that worked out. That was great fun.
Yeah, that's
like 99 times out of 100.
Yeah, that's a very good one, actually.
It's not guaranteed. Some days you'll just have a shit day, or the GM will have a shit day. And honestly, as a GM, I can cock that up. Like, I can misread where you're going.
It's like stand-up comedy. You know, when I do stand-up comedy classes, people say, have you ever had bad performances? I'm like, more than you can count. It happens.
Yeah.
You know? Right. Next question.
So, is that Ivan?
Evening.
What do you do if your characters want to go in a direction you did not anticipate and don't know the rules for that particular path? Example, if they want to craft or brew an item or potion on the fly to achieve a task, and it's technically possible, only out of the DM's knowledge. So there's a couple of ways of handling this, really.
Yeah. Well, this
honestly,
is a pretty quick one. Like,
if it's super important that the rules are right for this, talk to the players and take a break. Work
pause
it out. Yeah. Like, talk to the players like adults and go, you've thrown me a curveball here.
Yeah, give me a second.
I am going to need a minute or two to sit down and work this out so it goes well. It'll be better in the long run if we do that. Do you feel you can do that when you're on the clock, Molly?
Yeah. I mean, I know if you're asking me to run a game, I'm going to know most of it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's different. Like, if I'm being paid to run a game, so there's like a consultation bit at the beginning, and then like the contracts, and there's a bit more to it than just rocking up and playing a game. But in that part, I'm like, how cool are you with me just making rulings to keep the game moving?
Yeah. And if they say no, then you take the time.
Basically, yeah. And it effectively boils down to, if it doesn't matter, well, if it matters but it doesn't matter long term, I will just pull a roll out of my head and go, do this roll for now. In the future, that it may be different.
Yeah.
If it does matter, like you say, pause the game, look it up.
Yeah. I tend to go on the just wing it one, and like, I think that's partly because of the style of GMing I do, which is I do a lot of ad hoc rolls, and that's kind of just my style. And like, it's kind of a difficult one, because not one option is never always right, and I think you've seen that in a lot of these questions. Sometimes it is just an experience thing.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing. Like, it's a bit like a muscle. You know, the more you use it, the better it works. But you have to use it. You know. But yes, right. The second to last question, the penultimate question from Nathan. What GMing styles have you taken from specific systems into your general GM style?
So, styles or mechanics, or shall we do a bit of both?
Bit of both.
Yeah. Styles. I think that there's been some absolutely brilliant advice over the years in a lot of things. I would recommend that if you are going to be running heroic games, read Apocalypse World's like GM advice, because it's amazing. It sets you won't necessarily want to use all of it. I mean, drive it like you stole it is not applicable to every game style by a long stretch, but that's like it makes you think about these things, and sometimes that's all you need, and that for me was really good. The preset that says "be a fan of your players" and the player characters is really just a brilliant piece of GMing advice. And if you let that guide your prep and stuff like that, you come out with really good games generally.
Yeah,
You know?
no, that's all good stuff. Mine, so I've got two. One was Only War, which introduced the countdown clock mechanic to me. I know other games had done it before, but it was the one that had, it had introduced it to me, which was basically you have a clock and you tell the players at the start of the game, when the clock hits 0, the bombardment's going to happen. When the clock hits 0, the virus gets released. When the clock hits 0, whatever. And you have the clock publicly visible to the players. And as they do stuff, you tick the clock down and they can see it. And if the players piss about, you tick the clock down. And it keeps people going. It keeps people going in a direction. Which, I really like that. And the second one it's actually it's like an essay written about Dungeon World, which is, I think the essay is called "How Do You Kill a Dragon with 10 HP?" And the whole idea behind Dungeon World is that monsters never become these giant beasts that you beat to death over a long period of time. And it's because you mechanically make how they kill the monster matter. So they have to go and get the black arrow, and they have to find the appropriate bow, and they have to find out the flaw in the dragon's armor and that lot. And then when they know all of that, then it becomes a 10 hit point monster.
Yeah. And it's epic because Dungeon World only lets you roll when you're making a credible attempt. You do the move and then you roll for the move. The thing is, that really simple breakdown doesn't particularly give you is that the conditions for making the move are really important. So Dungeon World's parlay, I think it might be Apocalypse World's parlay, but it says if you have something to offer them, you can attempt to exchange it for a thing, or if you have a credible threat, you can use that to initiate parlay. So it really breaks down that you have to have the preconditions. You can't just rock up and go, I make a charisma check.
Yeah.
And that really made me think about my GMing. And how that style of stuff really made me think about when I let people roll. And I'd already been doing it with skill checks and stuff like that. But it really put into words something that I've been having trouble expressing.
No, that makes perfect sense. Like that, I agree. That's as good as I can say.
Yeah, your 10 hit point dragon, that's because unless you're using the black arrow, you are not a credible threat.
Yeah, it just goes, what?
Yeah, you're not really wielding a weapon that can kill it. In the same way that you can't just punch a castle to pieces unless you have an ability that explicitly says you do massive damage to objects.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in which case it becomes 2 skill rolls.
Yeah, because that's the thing. That's your shtick, your thing.
Burning Wheel really taught me about threat and failing forwards. Yeah, I got that from Burning Wheel, primarily, I think.
Makes sense. So, okay, let's ask one big question. I think we've got one that you particularly like as our big ending question.
So JP asked, where do you see RPGs going? What's gonna be happening in the future?
Well, where do you think it's going to go first? You go, and then I'll go.
So there's been a sort of fracturing in RPGs, the way I kind of see it. You've got the old school hack stuff going on. You've got D&D with its crazy amount of popularity, and a lot of people assuming that it'll do everything. And you've got these hyper specialized,
Lasers and Feelings,
indie games, that do just one thing and do it really well. So I don't know. I would like to say that sort of a book that I would like to see out in the next few years is like a proper just let's build an indie toolkit. You know,
Okay,
you can just throw stuff into it and it comes out with the thing. And then I think that's effectively what GURPS was trying to do. You know, it was a lot of modular rules that you could slot in to create the game that you wanted.
Do you think it'll manage it without the failing that GURPS had of thinking that you have to use every single rule when literally the point of GURPS was you don't?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Because, like, if you're going at it from a narrative point of view, like you're trying to create a certain type of experience, you're still going to lose the people that want a mechanical experience. You know, they want some realism in their rolling. I know, yeah, it's a bit of an odd term, but like they want a bit of a sort of verisimilitude to it. You know, they want this sword to feel different to that sword. And
I get you.
if you do it purely from a sort of narrative feel aspect as opposed to like more holistic game experience, that's going to be really hard. But then again, like if you let people tune both, what happens when you get really horrendously bad combinations and everyone just blames the game?
Yeah.
Or system. You know? I think it's really difficult. I would like to see some stuff on that. I'm becoming more cognizant of like the game as an experience rather than like trying to emulate, which is something that I think a lot of the story games do, is they very heavily emulate a certain genre, this type of thing.
It's like very much a flavor, but it's just that flavor.
Well, even then, like you can make them do other things with the right tweaks, and that's like I'm not trying to say that this is a story game specific thing. They are very focused, but what I'm trying to get at is that trying to create games with that viewpoint, that sort of I want to create this narrative. I used to think that was pretty much the end, like be all and end all of how I wanted to write games. And the more I played around with dice systems, the more I had fun with the system as well, the less I've wanted that to be the whole product, if you get me.
Yeah, I get you.
And that's been kind of weird for me. So what I'd like to do is do a lot more sort of experimentation. And I want to do more experimentation on the sort of how we try, what we focus on when we make a game.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really, I've been really proud of what we've been doing on Roll of the Adventure in that sort of style. Like the time one, we were not trying to build a specific narrative like feel too heavily. I think we did want that sort of like that storyline, but I don't think we pushed the genre as hard as we might have done. Yeah, and I think that was good. Like it was still a prison escape, but the time period really informed how it felt.
Yeah, I get you.
And that was kind of nice. Because we were then again mixing that stuff in. What did you think on that?
So in terms of where RPGs are going to go in the future, D&D 5th is going to fall off in interest. It's inevitable. Right now, it's riding high. You know, we're at the. I don't think we're quite at the peak of it, but I think we're getting there. You know, there's less wave to go than there was before it starts to crest. You know.
The thing is, it's got drivers that it didn't have before as well, though. Like there's.
Yeah, but the thing is nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
You know, it will decline, as all things do. But I think we're going to have a period of time where, with the runoff as it declines, you will have people who are interested. One, you've now got people who are playing the game, you know, for life.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to have another generation of parents that are playing it that will introduce another generation of kids to it, which kind of, you know, keeps the pump primed. The other thing is that, like, as it crests down, it will players will eventually get bored of it, like they did with 3.5 and OGL and that lot.
And
And you'll
Force and Pathfinder.
Yeah, and you'll see people trickling out into other games. They're going to want to try different
other
things.
styles.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a thing. That's definitely going to be a thing. And then on the other side of it, and this is me being cynical, but from like a business side of it, because the barrier of entry to publish a game is getting lower and lower and lower, unfortunately, the average quality is getting lower and lower and lower. And I think that's what's going to kill the kind of the interest that we've got right now, is that people are going to start looking around.
It's all going to be fantasy heartbreakers.
Basically, yeah, people are going to start looking around and they're going to be like, oh, this is garbage.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I do get you there. I think
Yeah.
there's definitely signal to noise. Also, there's audience confusion. I think you got a bit of feedback on one of the PDFs we did that was, this is obviously written for other GMs.
Yeah. So like there's the other thing as well. Like, I think that you're going to see a lot more people doing what I do, like doing paid for GMing, doing kind of using GMing and role playing as like a performance piece rather than a game.
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing that as the performance piece side of it. I mean, I do it somewhat, you know.
Yeah, and and I think it's going to be a case where you're going to get more and more people doing it, and once again, it's going to hit the point where it tips over and it falls down, because it's got, all things have a tipping point, and it's just when you hit that tipping point,
Yeah.
And I'd love to say it's not going to, and I'd love to say that I'm going to be able to, I'm going to be sat here when I'm 85 years old and be going, oh yeah, so I was wrong, and D&D, oh, still going and all that lot, because D&D will still be here when I'm 80 years old.
Yeah.
It just won't be, it won't be D&D as in, it won't be 5th edition. It won't be Critical Role. I mean, God, I hope it's not Critical Role, because those guys are going to want to stop at some point, surely?
They're not allowed.
Dance!
It's like on your robot legs, your head's in jars. Yeah, I mean, I think that you've got a really good point there about like the saturation of it. I think the indie, there's been like a sort of new wave of the indie scene, since 5th in the last couple of years. And I thought that had kind of crashed a bit when 5th came out, and that's kind of building back up again, which is nice to see.
I think it's because D&D it's a bit like the black hole thing of putting the steel ball on the rubber sheet. It warps the game landscape around itself.
Yeah.
So it, even without meaning to, when a new edition of D&D comes, it kills the indie scene for a while.
Yeah, and I think that's just firing up now. Looking at last year's Lovecraft-esque, I got a really lovely game at UK Games Expo this year about weird tailor wizards, which is something that I really like. It's not doing genre emulation; it's doing a specific type of story, and it's doing an interesting set of mechanics as well. I think it's a bit more mature than some of the others in what it's attempting. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you.
Not necessarily more mature mechanically. Apocalypse World is a fantastic piece of work, truly groundbreaking. But it was trying to do genre emulation. So that's kind of I find that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I am massively cynical about the RPG industry, because I started playing quote unquote properly at the end of 2nd edition.
Yeah.
2nd edition, so I saw TSR run 2nd edition into the ground.
Yeah.
And then I saw 3rd edition come out and be the savior of role-playing games. and then I saw the OGL run 3rd edition into the ground, and then I saw 3.5 come out, and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I've seen a bit less, but I know where you're coming from. I've looked for work in the OGL market, and turned around and went, I've turned around and gone, I'm not writing that.
Yeah.
Basically, because I didn't need the money that badly.
Yeah, I mean, the most consistent way of making money back in the OGL days, if you were based in England, was the Sevens series, which was, there was a publisher who I won't name because they did pay me, who used to write, they were 14-page or 16-page books because they had the 2 pages that you had to have in every OGL document.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was 7 noun.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's still a big thing. Like,
yeah, but like 7 noun, and literally you got paid like about 50 quid to write 7 trolls, 7 goblins, 7 whatevers, and that was it. That was what you did.
Yeah.
And I wrote quite a lot of them because they paid money.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at doing like classes and spells and stuff, and like I was just like, I don't want to be responsible for the power creep.
Yeah.
And then luckily I got a job doing something else. So
yeah, I was doing it as like a side hobby.
Yeah.
And then kind of just kept it as a side hobby.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think, like I'm saying, I think you'll see changes within the industry. Yes, very yes. You will see players joining the hobby that have joined the hobby. You will see a portion of them stay in the hobby.
Yeah, I really hope that's the. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I mean, it happened with like 3.5 massively.
Yeah. And pending Wizards not completely screwing stuff up, 5th has got a good while to go,
Yeah. Cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's going to be changes. So if it's going to be good.
It's going to be bad, yeah.
So yeah, that's been us ruminating for quite a while. I hope you've had fun, and we'll see you for the next arc soon.
Yes. And I might be in it, I might not. Who knows? It depends on my schedule.
Hopefully.
But thank you for having me, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. It's been lovely having a chat.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.